What is anger? Well, that is simple. To remember anger, just remember A-N-G-E-R. A for A, N for negative, G for general, E for extreme or explosive, and R for reaction. The people kind, not the science kind. So, that is anger, but how do we build it? Do we build it like a house? No, anger is not like houses, music, or alarm clocks. Anger is natural, like birds, thunderstorms, and Vikings. Anger is the feeling when you want a natural 20, but roll a natural 1. We all feel anger. But is it good? Yes. And no. Anger is an emotion. It tells us when we are upset. Similar to sadness. People can be too angry, and that is bad. But people can also be too happy, and those people creep me out more than the angry ones. So why do we look down on anger? That is because we often mistake it as H-A-T-E. Horrible, altogether terrible errors. Hate is more like clocks than anger. Hate is made by circumstances that the person feeling it may not even be fully in control. Like clocks. Where do they come from? Hate is confusing, but the solution to fight it is simple. By understanding it. Now, I know what you are thinking. I understand racism, sexism, xenophobia, religious intolerance, homophobia, and bigotry, but that doesn't mean it is okay. The best way for me to respond to that is to tell you a story. When I was in middle school, I heard an excerpt from a book twice, I think, at Boy Scout camp during chapel service. It was a story about the definition of love. In the story, one day, the author and his grandparents he lived with were at Sunday school. All of a sudden, in the middle of it, someone burst into the church. He began to make a scene, clearly drunk, saying that everyone was jealous of him because he had the only key to get into the box with all the hymns in it. He ranted for minutes about this, until he saw almost all of the eyes in the congregation were looking at him with disapproval. He then fell to the ground, crying on his hands and knees. Without hesitation, the narrator's grandfather stood up, walked over to him, hugged him, and told him that everything was okay. The grandfather said he should keep the key, and led him to the seat next to his family. Later, the narrator questioned his grandfather why he did that, and the grandfather told him it was because he understood how important that key was to the man. It made the man feel he had a purpose. The grandfather told the narrator that to understand is to love. Because of this, he loved the man. If you take this at face value, like I did when I was younger, this is just plain stupid and answers nothing. I completely forgot about it entirely until a few months ago. That is when I realized what it was trying to teach me. The grandfather realized that the key was super important to the man. The rest of the congregation thought he was a loony and were upset at him, but the grandfather felt bad for him. If you ever wonder why there is so much hate, it is often because people are the congregation, not the grandfather. It is easier to demonize people and think down on them to understand. Understanding is hard, like rocks or Contra 2. But hear me out. When you understand someone, it becomes impossible to hate them. Because no one is the bad guy in their head. 1, maybe 2%, if you are generous, of people are legitimately evil. And a lot of them probably had some justification in their head. People from churches with signs saying things I will not put here. They just don't want to see people go to hell. Racists, they had that stuffed into their mind by someone else, who had it shoved down their mind by someone else, who had someone else, who had someone else. You could trace it back to the first guy, but that was forever ago. At that point, you are just being petty. I want to make it ever so clear that I do not agree with the ideas or methods of any hate group. I do want to present a situation. We have a classroom with a student and a teacher. The student answers a question with an answer that is clearly incorrect. Is the appropriate action for the teacher to freak out on the student, calling him ignorant and belittling him? No. We have all had teachers like that, and I bet you didn't like them. Resented them even. Good teachers often ask, how did you get to that answer? They will walk students through the process, helping them understand why they are wrong and how to get to the correct solution. Is it that easy in the real world? No. Things are always easier on paper. Honestly, if you completely blew off everything I just said, I couldn't blame you. What do I know? I'm just a liberal arts major sitting in a dorm room. You could completely diss my work. That would make me angry. But remember, that is okay. Anger is important. It makes us stronger when we need to hit harder, faster when we need to run harder, and tougher when we need to take a hit from, say, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers. So build anger when you need it. Just remember not to let it become hate, because you don't have to agree or like what people do to understand them. And if you don't agree with me, then get angry about it.